Hey guys, this episode of the Chalkboard Podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/chalkboard and get a free audiobook and 30-day trial today.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chalkboard Podcast. We're bringing you conversations from our hometown, Kansas City, Missouri. My name is Eric, and with me, as always, is my best friend and co-host, Micah.
Rackball.
Don't bring up Rackham Willie. It's not okay.
I got a story to tell you guys for this episode, and
I'm sorry.
I've been telling it all week. So my mom believes that The Greatest Showman is the best movie of all time. It's her new Dan in Real Life, which she was her original Citizen Kane. So the other night, took my son to go see Disney Live, which is like the JV version of Disney on Ice. And afterwards, we got some dinner at 54th Street Bar and Grill, great little Kansas City tavern. And then my mom said, "Yeah, really, you guys, to my dad and brother, you guys really got to go see Greatest Showman." So
best movie ever.
They went to go see it again. Not me. I went home and bought tickets. They had us like reserved seats. My brother, who can be a little knucklehead sometimes, took them into the theater and they sat down and the movie starts. And my mom is retelling me this. She goes, "Yeah, after a few minutes, I thought, well, this isn't The Greatest Showman," and they were seeing 50 Shades Freed. My parents and my 21-year-old brother were seeing 50 Shades Freed together. It was, yeah. I told my mom, and the first time she told me, she said it was, I sat through like 8 minutes of it or whatever. And now she's like, no, it was just the wedding scene. I was like, well, when it wasn't like Victorian New York, like, you don't realize this is not P.T. Barnum?
Also, I'm sorry, it's so funny to me. I'm trying to bring it together. I love that your mom had seen the movie and was like, I don't remember this, but maybe I just don't remember how the movie started. Maybe I was late, maybe, I don't know.
And I'm sure the people sitting there who were seeing 50 Shades Freed were like, this is too much for these people already?
Yeah, they're already out.
Yeah,
5 minutes in.
Oh, man.
8 minutes in.
All right, let's talk about today's episode.
Yeah, so today we sat down with Peyton Marek, an artist manager and a tour manager for the Greeting Committee and Maybird. She started producing and managing the Greeting Committee when she was just in high school in Kansas City, and we kind of dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about quite a few things, what it was like to start managing a band and producing some music when she was in high school, what it's like to be a tour manager now, and we got into some wrestling talk, which made Eric very happy to have someone on the podcast who talked about wrestling.
So. It was my favorite thing. Let's jump into it.
All right, we are here with Peyton Marek. Peyton, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, so let's just dive right into where you got your start.
Let's do it.
You started tour managing and producing music when you were in high school. So
yes, yeah.
Where did that interest in music come from? Because Eric and I, we were pretty lame in high school, just doing lame things. So
what were you like in high school? Let's you first.
We both worked at grocery stores.
Okay,
yeah, we did.
Yeah,
that's
you
a real
did.
thing.
And Eric
High V.
I don't know, what were you
High
like?
V for life.
What was I like in high school?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I really became me until college. In high school, I was very shy.
He was being in a wood shop.
Truth told, when I was in middle school, I got held back. So a lot of high school was catching up.
Okay.
It was funny.
Yeah.
I just didn't care. So I graduated high school in 3 years to get back on track.
Oh, yeah, you were one of those guys.
I was. So I didn't really do
kids.
social stuff.
Okay.
I did have a girl ask me to prom, and I didn't go.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
savage, though.
Rejected. It was a friend thing. It was
Okay.
fine.
Cool.
Probably worse now.
All you need to know about Eric.
I'd go to prom today, though.
You would go to prom
No,
today?
not like today. Like looking back now, I'd be like, man, I wish I would have gone to prom.
If you were to go back, you would do it. Okay.
I wouldn't go to prom today.
Well, if she's
Currently as a
listening,
30-year-old man,
if she's
who'd go to
listening, take this guy to prom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only if there's a great promposal.
Oh,
That's what I need.
Oh, yeah.
I need a good
you
promposal.
Need that. You need like someone with a title about being like, you can be the world heavyweight champion if you go to prom.
That's exactly right. Yeah. This person would know the way to my heart.
Yeah.
The promposal thing stresses me out.
Yeah.
Not to get too off topic, but it's.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure for high school kids. They got a lot to worry about.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So one of my really good friends now, and this will kind of go into like how I started.
Yeah.
So
we want to hear about all your prom poses.
Okay, so my prom, it was like a sweetheart, like Sadie Hawkins. He's a drummer, and he's one of my best friends now, and I got him drumsticks that said like "sweetheart" with me, like legit made them. I don't even know.
Well done.
2 pairs, so if he broke one, you could just play the other one. I mean, what?
The backup
what
pairs,
better than that?
That's the real heart of the gift right there, is that you
know.
thought enough to give him a second pair.
Yep.
Well, they came with 2 pairs. You had to get 2 pairs, but we
set
can
you
play
up
it
for
off
that.
like
Well,
that.
I
Yeah,
was
we
saying-
can play. I didn't tell him that though. I mean, he's probably gonna hear this and. I don't know, but that's okay. Yeah. So I got started. I mean, obviously, like my parents, they've always had bands. They toured nationally and internationally. My dad in a band called Rainbow Express, which is not a gay band. It sounds like a gay band. Who knows? It could have been, and I have no idea. And then my mom had a band called Jeopardy in high school, and as I was telling you guys earlier, her song was "Hit Me with Your Best Shot" by Pat Benatar. Like every time that song comes on, that's her.
It's a great song.
It's like, yeah, I mean the whole thing, that's her thing. So I guess it kind of, everyone says it runs through my blood. Music is like in my blood. And I one day decided that I wanted to be a producer and an audio engineer. And so my dad got all this recording equipment in our basement, and it was like a QU16 Allen and Heath board for you audio engineer nerds. And we had Greeting Committee come over, who I went to high school with. And they recorded their first EP in a couple spots, but primarily my basement.
How old are you at this time?
I was 18.
Okay.
So
yeah,
you said,
so this was like January 2015.
Yeah, and you said you
Yeah.
decided that you wanted to be an audio engineer / producer.
Yeah.
What made you decide that? Did you just wake up one day, or had you seen kind of work being done, or what happened?
I saw, I think I was watching documentaries, or my dad was doing some kind of stuff on Logic Pro. And what also drew me to it was the fact that there are not a lot of female audio engineers and producers. I think it's like less than 3%.
Kind of a boys' club.
It's kind of a boys' club, and it needs not to be. No offense, but
Yeah. No, not gonna
it
offend
needs
us.
to be a little bit more equal. We'll give it that. Yeah, and so I kind of took that and ran with it, and so the EP's done, hands down, is done, and I'm sitting in math class one day, and I Twitter DM the song to Laszlo of 96.5 The Buzz, who's the program director, and he was like, "Can you send me a SoundCloud link?" And I didn't have my laptop on me, so I snuck out of school and sent it to him, and that same day they played it on the radio, which was crazy. And it was, I don't know, there was like a 2-week waiting period where we were like, okay, this song's out, like they must like it, they're playing it on the radio and spinning it regularly. And we got word from some record labels like Harvest Records, who they're signed to. It's a subsidiary on Capitol. Label mates are like Glass Animals, Banks, if you're familiar with them. And we were out in New York like right after I graduated, having them showcase for Republic Records and Fueled by Ramen. So Fueled by Ramen is like 21 Pilots, Paramore, Republic.
We grew up on
You guys know.
Fueled by
You guys
Ramen
know.
was a big
Yeah.
deal for
Fueled
us
by
when we were
Ramen
in
is
high
a big
school.
deal, yeah, and I didn't know that at the time. And
Also,
so
Dashboard's on there now.
Dashboard, how good is the new record?
I really like that
so
new record.
good. Yeah,
I'm
I
all
love
in
them.
on it.
Yeah, so we, long story short, signed with Harvest Records and are very happy about it. And so now we're getting ready to release their first album, their first full length. They've put out 2 EPs, and in the midst of that, last year, at the beginning of last year, I picked up my second artist and signed them to my roster. They're called Maybird, and they're on a subsidiary off of Columbia Records. It's called 30th Century. If you guys are familiar with the producer Danger Mouse, he's done like some Black Keys stuff, Portugal the Man. And they did some pretty good touring damage last year. We went out with Portugal the Man, Joy Wave, this cool Australian band called the Babe Rainbow, and so it's like all kind of unfolding, but the start was the Twitter DM, which is kind of funny. I always look back at the DMs and
Yeah, so when you decided to send it to Laszlo of The Buzz,
yeah, I did.
what made you decide to do it? Did you just think this song was a banger? Because, I mean, hands down is probably the song that most people know when they hear the Greeting Committee so far.
For sure,
And,
yeah.
I mean, that's largely in part because of your Twitter DM.
It's crazy. And, like, I mean, obviously, like, it was a team collective thing. Part of doing what we do and being in music is knowing the right people to collaborate with. And Laszlo was the right person to collaborate with, and he and I now co-manage the band. It's kind of cool, like, I don't. It's a very weird management dynamic. It's hilarious. We make fun of it all the time. He's a little bit older than I am. I'm not going to say his age. Not that it's a big deal, but it's just very.
We're gonna tease it that you
he's
did
not
say
that
his
old.
age. That's
You're
how we're
not
gonna
that
get people
old.
to
Yeah,
listen.
yeah. But it's just a very funny dynamic. We are just a cool little team. He's awesome. He's taught me everything he knows and still has much more to teach me. That's the cool part of it. He's kind of like my mentor, if you will.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you played it for Laszlo, or when Laszlo started playing it,
Yeah.
how did you go from a radio DJ
Yeah.
who heard my song or
Yeah.
my friend's song that
Yeah.
I helped make
For sure.
to being your mentor?
It was, he's been in the industry for so long and is a very reputable guy. Everyone loves Laszlo. How could you not? He's great at what he does. He takes chances on bands, and the motto for Kansas City is, we break bands. And so we haven't really broken greeting committee yet. We're still up there. We're still working on it. But he hit up some people that he knew, and we got we had a Squarespace website, and we got some direct messages from this A&R guy from Republic Records. Like the VP of A&R is like, hey, like I wanna potentially sign you guys. Can you guys send me like your songs? Can we like have a phone conversation? And I remember getting those, and we actually hadn't checked the Squarespace messages in like 2 months, so we found those way after.
No.
He tried to get a hold of us in many different forms of
It's like me and the chalkboard email.
Yeah, it's a learning curve.
You never check it. Yeah. So he finally got a hold of us. So it was kind of wild. Like I barely graduated high school. This all happened. Like I had the greeting committee perform at our school's assembly, like kind of forced like 800 people to watch the band, which is fine. I mean, I'm very biased, but what better of a way to like put them in front of an audience like that?
Sure.
And it took me a while to convince my school to do that. Everyone was kind of afraid of mosh pits, and I was like, I mean, who cares? Like they need to be cultured. Let's do
this
this.
is high school. There's way more things to be afraid of than a mosh pit.
I know.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that all happened, and I remember like walking down the hallway with my principal, and he was like, okay, so like you need to like pass anatomy. And I was like, I'm managing this band now. They're called the greeting committee. And he was like, I know. He was like, I know. They performed at the assembly. Like we saw them.
But
he was like,
great.
he was like, you can't manage bands if you don't graduate high school. And I was like, well, like, I don't know. I did graduate high school, but hardly. So.
So at that point, did you know that you wanted to manage bands full time?
I never knew. I still am trying to figure out what a band manager is. You ask
Sure.
any manager, and everyone's like, we don't really know what this is. Like, So it never really was like you're a manager. It was just kind of a given. It was just like, you're doing all these things for us. Like, you really like doing it. Like, you're helping us out with it. And so then when Laszlo joined, it was like, okay, these are our official like management titles. We're doing it and figuring it out as I go. And I found that I really discovered my niche and really love doing it and want to keep doing it. And so I gave myself like a year and a half to kind of figure things out. And at that time, Maybird came along at a really good time frame, and I started working with them. I met them at a festival that greeting committee got put on last minute, and it was kind of serendipitous. They were on 2 festivals back to back with us, and it was cool. I didn't know that I could manage other bands until I met them. I was like, oh, they were like, we don't have a manager. And I was like, oh, my brain clicked, and I was like, I manage bands. Should I manage you? And their music is great, and I did my research and really, really liked them. And so that's when that partnership formed.
So was that scary at all? Like, because I mean, the greeting committee, they like getting some success, touring, playing festivals, but they were also like your friends that you kind of fell into it.
Absolutely,
care about
so what was it like?
personally.
I'm interested in what that was like, how you felt about it, and then also what were you looking for in another band to sign? Because it's one of those things like you want it to be a good fit for you as well as them. So what were you looking for?
I mean, greeting committee, we have a different relationship than most managers and bands. I mean, we went to high school together. We kind of constructed the band together from the ground up. I say this very humbly. I feel like a 5th band member sometimes, and I'm very honored to have that feeling because they are so great to work with. And I'm very biased. I have 2 of the greatest artists. I'm so lucky to get to work with them. But when you start working with your friends and you find predicaments sometimes where you kind of have to draw that line and take that friendship and professionalism aside, especially when you get like lawyers and money involved, it's like, okay, this is weird. Like, we're friends. How do we figure this out? But as you go, I mean, you really figure out a band dynamic. Maybird is totally different than how the greeting committee operates, but that's how every band is. Every band is going to be different, and so it's definitely different. I feel like management started to become a little bit of a comfort zone for me. We had released 2 EPs, and I was like, okay, I want to do something that's like throwing me out there, like doing something else that I've never done before. And so that's when I started taking on the other artist. And it was a 4 or 5 month process. But when people ask me what I look for when I'm looking to add on to my roster, I'm never really actively looking for artists to sign to my roster or to begin working with. It just kind of like, it's right place, right time. And that's kind of the story with the greeting committee. That's how everything kind of blossomed for them. And I don't ever want to spread myself too thin. I'm definitely a quality versus quantity person. And so, I mean, obviously, like, if the right band comes along and I really believe in their music and really believe in them as individual artists, then it's something that I'm willing to consider.
Do you think you have to like a band's music to be their manager? Like,
Oh,
love
yeah.
their music? Okay.
Oh, hands down. No pun intended. Dang.
It's the greeting
oh
committee's
man,
hit
that was
song.
like the first year that we had hands down out. Everyone was like, hands down, no pun intended. And I was like, okay, I need to stop saying this because I said it all the time and I'm starting to say it again. I think the 2 main things that I would say in order to be a manager, because you're really on the forefront of every decision that's made. Like, you are an essential band member. You're helping them with everything. If you're doing it right, in my terms, you're like family. That's how I treat my artists. I have band members call me and they're like, hey, I'm drunk, it's 3 a.m. And I'm like, I'll come pick you up. Yeah. It's not just the professional aspects. But I mean, yeah, it's being excited and passionate about the music and about the band. That's the most important, because your job as a manager is to get everyone else excited about their music. And if they don't have that initial aspect of a manager being excited, then it's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. You have to have that excited team. And that's like, I mean, we have like an agent, an attorney, a business manager. You have that whole core team. Everyone has to be in it for the same goal, or else it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of all the different roles or hats that you wear as manager, what are some of your favorite kind of things you do? And then what are some of the more challenging things that you do?
Yeah. I think, I handle their tour management right now too, and I have for the past couple years. So I really like the touring aspects of things. Are really cool to me. I love when I get to reach out to a friend who manages a band that we want, Maybird or greeting committee to be on for a tour, and I get to get excited about them, and I get to be like, hey, can we put them on this tour? Like, kind of asking for favors. So that's really fun, and supporting other people too that you meet. That's really fun too. Like other bands that we've toured with in the past. Like, it's so cool to see like Saint Motel or Tennis or Jude on the Lion just totally blow up, and we get to support that, and we were on beginning tours with them. But communicating with the band members on the daily is one of my favorites. I love to hear exactly what they're thinking. What do you like about this mix? What do you hate about the mix? There's challenges too. I mean, at first it was like, how do we draw this line between being friends and being your manager? And it took a while, and we're always going to have to figure out different methods depending on the situation. But I love to route tours. It gives me an adrenaline rush. I love to be like, okay, we're driving 6.5 hours here, and it's like 400 some miles here. I know that eventually I'm going to have to step away from being on the road. It is hard handling day-to-day management for 2 artists and being on the road where sometimes there's no Wi-Fi or your computer dies and you don't have a charger or whatever. I mean, it's the possibilities of things failing on the road are endless. I remember one of the craziest stories so far, and we were announcing the Portugal the mandates with Maybird, and I was driving greeting committee, like we were like in the middle of Albuquerque, like in the desert. And I'm like, I have to announce this tour in like an hour. I don't want to stress the band out, like 2 different artists here. And we had to pull over at a gas station, and I had to tweet for the band and settle everything up so we could announce it. But I love that life.
Yeah.
Like I love being on the road, being like MIA, like where is she? She's on the road, you know? It's so cool. Like, and especially for the artists, when we get them good tours, like Greeting Committee is about to go out with a band called Jukebox the Ghost from April to May. It's so cool. Like touring really is the main aspect of gaining a fan base. After every show, both of my artists are at the merch table greeting fans. Hi, how are you? Like, you know, gaining those fans for life, because that's how you become personable with those who listen to your music. I mean, you have to support the people who support you too.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting. One of the things we've talked about between Eric and I, and then also with other guests, is how different music is these days in terms of how you find music, right?
Crazy.
Like it used to be you listen to the radio or you know, and now there's Spotify. And so I'm interested in, I feel like you're breaking into like you're new to it, you're young,
For sure.
Then you also you can have a mentor who knows kind of like some of the logistics of it.
Yeah.
But then also you're kind of at this cutting edge of like, how do people find out about bands? How do you grow things? So that's got to be exciting too.
It is, yeah. And I think, I mean, I as a manager too, and being in the music industry in general, like management and A&R in particular, I have to know what's going on in the world. I have to know what's going on in fashion and music and you know, politics, because things are so ever changing, especially with media nowadays. So I mean, like, how do you guys find your music? Like, where do you like Spotify, like Discover Weekly?
Rap Caviar. No.
Yes.
I do like that.
I do listen to
Yeah,
radio.
man, Rap
I
Caviar.
try to listen to the radio as much as possible
It-
to still find new things. Because I find if I just listen to Spotify, there are those playlists. But then I just get so
I'm
segmented
so
into
like in a
things.
comfort zone. I'm like, okay, I'll put on Damn by Kendrick and like just listen to it on the daily. But like
I have a hard time. I use Apple Music.
Yeah.
And so when you have Apple Music, if you look at like your library page, it'll tell you what you added most recently.
Oh, sick.
So
Okay.
what I can run into is I'll listen to the same like 5 albums for 6 months.
No.
Because it's just right there on the front page.
You're like, I'm trapped.
I
I
will
can't
tap
get
on
out
this
here.
one. Like I don't want to scroll through all of my artists. One way I
Yeah.
still find music though is I mean, it sounds weird saying like I'm old school, but
no, it's great.
I'm slower to discover new music because I'll wait for Micah to tell me about something, or
sure.
I'll wait for like my friend Jesse or my
Yeah,
friend Salar.
yeah.
I still very much go through that like organic process
Yeah.
of it. Or like lately I have been like checking out since we talked to them last time.
Yeah.
Playlist Play has a ton of playlists every week.
Amazing
or, like,
playlists.
A playlist every week, and so
Savannah, Nick, shout out.
I'm trying a little bit harder than I
Amazing
used
playlists.
to.
I just never want to get into a rut where I only listen to the same
I'm there.
things or the same
Oh,
genre.
yeah. I'm guilty of that. But I think, as you mentioned, well, I mean, and friends in general, finding music from friends. I have friends who live in LA or who live in Dallas who are creating their own projects or who are sending me a lot of unsigned bands, because that's what I'm listening to now is a lot of unsigned bands, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm all over the place. Like when people are like, what genres do you listen to? I'm like, let me pull up my Spotify, let me pull up my title or whatever. And it's like, it's all over the place. Hip hop right now is kind of dominating everything. I mean, you see like Brockhampton and like Lil Uzi Vert and Migos and
This dude loves Lil Uzi Vert.
you do,
I do.
man. And rock and alternative. And I think the punk movement's kind of like coming back. I think the Nirvana is gonna come back. Sorry, I cussed.
You're okay.
But that's gonna come back. I don't know, but I mean, I'm really a live music person too. I like to go out and with supporting acts, you know, who's opening for Bully or for Spoon or whoever. I like to go and find other bands that are opening. And I think with my artists sometimes being on that supporting bill spot, I feel like I'm obligated to go and watch opening bands too, because I know how that is to look out and you want everyone who bought a ticket to the show to be there to watch your artist perform. I mean, that's the goal, right? That's kind of sparked me to go and watch more bands. But I love to just like be on the loose, like being like going to South by. Like I'm an animal at South by. You don't sleep at South by. You just go and drink beer, eat tacos, and like watch music. It's
true.
great. Yeah,
I did
my
it
friend
once.
like
It's
broke
very
a
true.
chair at a taco stand last year because he was so excited about a showcase he played at a skating rink. Like
Just got
that's
really
South
excited.
by.
Breaking a chair.
Yeah, have you guys been to South by?
I've been once.
It's so sick.
Yeah, I went. I
Yeah.
was running merch for my friend's band at the time.
Oh, cool,
And so we were
man.
there.
Yeah.
There's so many like hospitable people. I don't know if
Yeah.
Austin's like that all the time. I've heard it's pretty close to that.
Oh, yeah.
But we stayed with like these two girls who had never met any of us, and they like made breakfast for us every morning, and were so hospitable
That's
and so,
so so
cool.
nice. Where
and
do
let
I?
like 7 smelly guys sleep in their guest room. And it was
Oh
just
my
like,
gosh,
I can't believe how nice they
that
were.
beats any Airbnb I've
How'd
ever
you find
stayed
them?
at.
It was a friend of a friend.
Okay.
So
Okay.
our
Yeah.
friend
It's always a
had
friend of
gone
a
on
friend. I
some
love
like
it.
humanitarian trip with one of them, and
Okay.
he hit her up and was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
these guys are coming in town. Do you have an extra room?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure. 7 smelly like band guys can sleep in our guest room. Why not?"
That's so nice.
With me and my sister's house. It's just weird.
I think
my
you're
gosh,
like,
nice.
that's just so true about live music, about being
Yeah.
the best way to find stuff that you like.
Yeah, well, because myself personally, I like listening to live music better than I do recorded music. I love like LCD Sound System's live concert album from their last show is my favorite album of all time because I like to hear the crowd screaming. I love a screaming crowd. I love when I get to hear people screaming the words to like Hands Down or like to Turning Into Water, one of Maybird's songs. Like that's so cool. And so getting to hear that in their element and hearing like the random, guitar fillers that they have in the middle of songs and transitions and like mistakes they make. Like we recorded Greeting Committee all live tracking. So it wasn't in like a live setting, but we recorded everything for the most part all at once aside from overdubs. And we just wanted the energy. Like my dad he always is like, the Beatles did this, the Beatles did that. Like you listen to this, like listen to this mistake. And
He gets it.
he gets
That
it.
dude
Yeah.
gets it.
So we were like, okay, so we're going to record like live. And so we did. And that gets harder as you add different elements. I mean, for this record, we have string sections, horn sections, and background vocals. I'm so excited for everyone to hear it. They're still working on it, but everything's tracked and everything's being mixed, and so it's cool to get to hear that. But yeah, I mean, discovering different bands, it's important, and I think Kansas City does a great job of that. Chris over at 909 is totally implementing everything that's happening in Kansas City, whether that's making playlists or telling people what shows to go see. I mean, he really digs deep into the matrix of who's coming in town and does his homework and listens to it.
And goes to every
and
single
goes to
show.
every
Yeah,
single show.
I don't know how he does it and hosts his own
Concert
show.
Chris for a reason.
Yeah, we went. We
right?
were actually
Like
on
the
his show
illest.
one time.
Yeah.
And his knowledge of music, like we had brought a song by one of our friends, and
Yeah.
he had already like researched and knew all about like
He's
the
great.
single and his
Yeah.
family. Like it was nuts. He
He'll
does
know-
his due diligence for sure.
That's passion.
So we
Yeah.
talked a lot.
Yeah.
Like you clearly wear a lot of hats as a manager. You're
Yeah.
a road manager. You're
Yeah.
just like regular manager.
Yeah.
Do you have just like a set day to day? Like what does your day to day look like?
Every day is really different. Some days are really busy. Some days are moderately busy. As we're working on putting this album out, it's definitely busier and hands-on. When we first started out, Laszlo again is my mentor, and so he was kind of handling most of the daily tasks, and now it's kind of he comes in, he's like kind of an executive role, and will voice his opinion, and it's a great dynamic, and so. Maybird I manage solo. So like a typical day is like, maybe we get a tour and we have to coordinate that, and we have to compile like a cool poster to post at 10 a.m. Eastern time or whatever, and go through demos that we get or mixes that we get. That's kind of like right now. Like today I was telling you guys we got new mixes from a couple producers we're working with, and we kind of, get all of our notes together and talk about it amongst our team and with their label and with Laszlo, and we figure out what works best. But yeah, I mean, and as a manager too, like I'm a translator. I think, a manager is the glue to everyone. We have, for Greeting Committee, we have an agent, a business manager who handles their accounting. We have an attorney. We have their label, and then you have Laszlo and I. And so, and we're about to incorporate press into that too. So I'm kind of like coordinating everything. When they go on tour, it's like, okay, we have radio in Minneapolis. We're going to do Go 96.3. And then they're going to go get interviewed by this blogger. They're going to do a live session in Chicago. Planning and activating things so that everything's organized, everything's in our app that we use, and scheduling. And I'm very OCD, so I have to keep all that together. And going back to the translator aspect, when the band says something that they want the label to do, I have to then translate it into a label-friendly way of saying it, and vice versa. If the label's like, okay, we can't support this tour, how do I then come back and translate it into an artist-friendly way, whether that has happened or not? And so that's kind of cool too. It's learning. Music is a whole different language, the industry. And that's one of the first things Laszlo told me. He was like, you're going to learn a whole different language. And I'm still learning it. It's like they should make a friggin' Rosetta Stone for the music industry.
So how else do you learn? How else do you learn? I mean, I guess it's a lot do trial and error, but do you watch? Yeah,
YouTube.
Do you watch YouTube?
How do you manage bands?
Like,
Should we make these
podcasts?
videos?
I mean, do you watch documentaries? Are there books? Like, how do you learn?
Yeah, I mean, I think like read everything. I mean, if you want to be a manager, if you want to do anything, like read everything. Like read books on how to do it. And I did not go to college. I think college is great, but for myself in particular, I learned by doing. I learned by being thrown into a situation and having to dive in, ask questions. I feel very lucky to get to call someone at Capitol's touring department and be like, how much do I include in this budget for food or for hotels? Downplaying things and being like, hey, I'm a novice at this. Can you explain it to me? They know that I'm younger and they know that I'm just starting. And we're lucky to work with people who really have kind of taken me under their wing and helped me and explained things to me and called me and been like, hey, this is how this works. Like when we release a record, like this is how long we need for art to process, just random things. And so asking questions and not being afraid to get rid of your pride. Like as much as I wish sometimes when the band asks me questions like, how does this work? Sometimes I say, I don't know. I'm going to ask someone because I don't feel comfortable giving you an answer until I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't ever want to give false information to anyone. So I think research is the best way to do that.
What I like about that is, so you're a little bit on the younger side of this industry. And so what I like about what you're saying there is you're not letting like your being young, your naivety, you're not letting that sort of be a burden. Instead, you're sort of weaponizing it and saying it's okay not to know something, but we can ask and we can find out. And then you're using that and you're like, okay, now I know this.
And it's like the band's picked you. Yeah. It's like you
Which
have
is
that
so
confidence.
weird, and I still can't fathom
that's
it.
Cool. It's really cool. Like the band's picked you, so when you're going to talk to labels or touring, it's people might treat you differently, maybe because you're younger, but you can always say like, look, this is my band.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool. I mean, I still go back and I'm like, why are these bands still letting me manage them? It's been 3 years and they're still, I guess I must be doing something right. I don't know. But it's just being at the band's best interest and being willing to kill for your bands. And I think that's one of the most important elements. And when I first started managing, I had this mentality that I needed to act older than I was and act like I had been in the industry for a long time. So I would like dress weird and like I know,
full
like
business suit.
Business suit on tour. No, I didn't go that far. I wish I would have. That would have been cool.
Yeah, I think that would have worked all.
Yeah, that like total go like Paul Heyman on them, right, Eric?
That's right. Yeah. Don't worry, wrestling's coming up.
Wrestling's coming up. Yeah, but now it's like I'm 21 and I'm managing bands. Like I'm gonna be 21 and manage bands and like not know everything, and that's okay.
I think that's the right way to look at it, honestly. I mean, not that I know much about managing bands.
That's okay. So if you want to manage bands, we can.
Let's do it. I'm in. I need a new career path. Why not? This podcast isn't really panning out for me.
Hey, thanks a lot.
I'm kidding. Real quick.
Micah's like, I'm left in the dust.
Before we get into wrestling, I do want to ask like one more thing. So we've talked about where you've kind of been, where you are right now. Obviously, you're recording with the greeting committee right now.
Yes.
Spring and summer are fast approaching. We're almost in spring right now, and that's kind of busy time for working bands. So what's in the immediate future for you right now?
Yeah. So for the artists, I mean, obviously, greeting committee has finished tracking their first album that we're going to put out soon. We don't have an exact date or month right now, but we're aiming for early summer, late spring, and we're going to put a single out very quickly here. And they're going to tour for a couple months. As of right now, I'm going to be out with them for the full 2 months. They're hitting every city nationally. And so we're working on the album. We're going to do an album release show in Kansas City eventually. I know everyone keeps asking when they're going to do a Kansas City show. So
when are you guys going to do a Kansas City show?
We're going to do one probably in June.
I'm just teasing.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. And then for Maybird right now, they're working on their first full length. So it's kind of interesting. They're both kind of at the same timelines. They're both a little bit different, but they've put out 2 EPs as well. Last year, they put out this really sick, like psychedelic indie EP. It's called Unraveling, and Patrick Carney of the Black Keys helped produce it. So we really hit the ground running with that. And again, they had a really successful touring year last year. I mean, we had them out with Portugal the Man. The last day of that tour, Feel It Still hit #1 worldwide. And we were like, how do we get a better tour than this? Portugal the Man are great, really good friends of ours. And we were really, really excited to have them on that tour. So right now they're in studio. They're going to be recording at Electric Lady, which is Jimi Hendrix's studio in New York. And
Janelle Monáe recorded there.
Janelle Monáe recorded there, and
a lot
Lady
of people
Gaga,
recorded there. Yeah.
and
John Mayer, everybody.
John Mayer, you name it. And so they're actually in studio with Danger Mouse, who will be producing, and Patrick Carney will be co-writing the record. So we have demos. We're just sifting through everything, but very preliminary for them, and then they're going to tour.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's a lot coming up.
It's a lot coming up, and a lot of people ask about the festival aspect, and it's like we want them to be on festivals, but the timing has to be really right. We don't want them on the very, very bottom of the bill. Lollapalooza was a different story. I mean, you look at that lineup. I always look at that poster, and they're like the very last name. It says the greeting committee like really small on the right-hand corner.
But it's
but
just always
that's so
shrinks.
cool.
But it's there, yeah.
Like you can't even see it. Like one of the drummer's moms like framed it, and I don't even know. It might be cut off. I don't know. I think you can like kind of see it, but it's down there. So we have to climb that, and we want to make sure that the timing for that is right. We don't want to again put them on the very bottom of it. We want to wait until we have some momentum to kind of work them up on that middle tier. Hopefully.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I'm doing a quick ad read here.
Yeah.
You know what was probably not recorded in the Electric Lady studio?
What, Micah?
The Stone Cold Truth, which is a Steve Austin
Here we go,
biography.
man. We're doing it.
Narrated
Daniel
by
Bryan,
Steve
yes,
Austin.
We're doing it. Do it.
But if you want to listen to the Stone Cold Truth, you can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/chalkboard. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, MP3 player, Zune. Make sure you go to audibletrial.com/chalkboard and get your free audiobook today. Maybe you get the Stone Cold Truth, which is 2 hours and 26 minutes, a very short book.
That's a brief read by old Stone
I
Cold.
feel like
there.
most
sick.
audiobooks are like a good 19 hours, and this one's short, but it's narrated by Steve Austin.
Dang.
So that sounds great. So
Gotta get on that.
Sell me on wrestling. Both
Yeah.
of you. Both
Okay.
are big wrestling
Okay.
fans.
Peyton, I would love for you
had
to
a
talk
heated
about this.
conversation
Okay.
about it. Sell me on wrestling.
I'm so excited. So, okay, first of all, who are your favorite wrestlers of all time?
My
I'll do
favorite
all
wrestlers
time and
of
then do
all
current.
time. So
Okay.
I was a little bit lame when I was younger. I was real into WCW when it was on.
Yeah,
So
okay,
the
yeah.
NWO was a big deal for me.
Okay.
Sting is my
Yes,
all-time favorite
yes,
wrestler
Hall
in the
of Fame
WCW.
last year, yeah.
My all-time
Yeah.
favorite wrestler, bar none. It's not just my favorite wrestler. It's my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yes.
He's just such a larger-than-life character.
love it.
The whole
Yeah.
storyline where he asked Elizabeth to marry him on stage,
Oh.
and she goes, "Ooh, yeah!" Like it's great.
I love
And
it.
then
What a savage.
He was exactly.
Yeah.
He was feuding with Jake the Snake, and at their wedding day,
Yeah.
Jake the Snake gave them a snake, and it bit her, or like it bit him. It's unbelievable.
That's
Just
so
like
cool.
he's the best. He's
I
my
love
favorite,
that.
and I mean, and
Yeah.
not even because Hulk Hogan has been shamed and kicked out of wrestling.
Yeah.
I think the Macho
all
Man is
good.
the GOAT. I really do. What
He's
about you?
the GOAT. I love how you just said GOAT. Current or no, all
Let's go
time.
all time first.
We'll do all time. Undertaker, all time, hands down.
Understandable.
Like legit, like favorite ever. I don't cry often, and I cried when he retired. It was really sad last year. He put the hat and the cape down, and I was like,
I
my
heard he
life
might be
is
at WrestleMania,
over.
though.
I know. You never know. He was great at Raw 25 too.
Yeah.
I love when he comes in and he's like, I'm back for like, he takes his hat off and he just like has that really raspy voice.
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into it, but I also
Yeah.
I
Yes,
love
you do.
I do,
Yes,
but
you do.
I'm refraining.
Yeah.
Undertaker at Raw 25
Yeah.
has some weird cryptic stuff that he says that makes no
Yeah.
sense. But I'm also just
Super
still
weird.
all in. I'm like,
But I'm
yes,
all in. I'm like, whatever you
yes,
say.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, whatever you say. Except for he's like a hardcore Republican, and I don't know if I can. We won't get into that.
No,
but
we get into that.
Look,
here.
you can't really get into you can't really look at the politics of professional
I know,
wrestling and
I
still want to
know.
watch professional wrestling.
I know. I always look at his like Michelle McCool, his wife's Instagram, and he's wearing like NRA shirts, and I'm like, oh, come on, I love you. Like,
don't
can
do
you
this.
not? Can we
Don't
not?
do
Can you
this.
just put the cape on or something?
Just cover that up.
Yeah, yeah.
He's obsessed with death.
I know.
Well,
yeah.
ooh.
So yeah, we went there earlier. Yeah, I love the Undertaker. He's great. What?
Forgot about that. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Who are you into right now, though?
Who am I into now? Who I love. I'm really sad that Dean's out. I love Dean Ambrose very much.
I just can't get in on
You can't
him.
get okay. Well, I love
like-
Renee Young. I think she's amazing. She's not a wrestler, but she's amazing.
She's great. Yeah.
Well, okay. Wait. We have to go back before I spill this water. I got really excited. I almost spilled this water.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we have to go back to women's wrestling. Who's
Yeah.
your favorite all-time women's wrestler?
Favorite all time. So
Okay.
I think it's really hard to talk about favorite all time women's
Okay.
wrestler because for the first time in my life, women's wrestling is incredibly strong and incredible.
Yeah.
Like in the Attitude Era, it just wasn't a thing. Obviously, Trish Stratus and Lita were
Like
great.
amazing. They're gonna be at Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
awesome. But
Yeah.
my favorite women's wrestler, man,
Yeah.
I love Sasha Banks.
I love Sasha
Charlotte
Banks.
Flair. I love the whole women's
Yeah.
roster is so strong
So
right now.
good, dude.
I thought I'd hate Carmella, but I'm all in.
I hated her at first. That
Yeah.
whole Nikki Bella feud. I was like, get that out of here. Like, who are you?
I don't love she's super vocal in the ring, and that's not
Yeah.
always my favorite thing for
Me
any
either.
wrestler.
Unless you're really good
Yeah.
at that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, so I can't pick a favorite, but Sasha Banks is probably
Yeah.
the one I'm into the most right now.
Okay. Yeah.
What about you?
Okay, so I was at SummerSlam this last year.
Okay,
and
don't just settle.
and
just
it was like, no.
We talked wrestling before
Ah,
this.
you're making me
You and
feel
I have
lame.
texted about wrestling, and you've never told me that you went to
I went-
SummerSlam.
Well, so it worked out. So Maybird is from New York, and they played this like emerging music festival in Manhattan in New York, and the next day, SummerSlam happened to be at Barclays Center, and I was like, well, I might as well. It was like right after I turned 21, and I spent like $20 on a beer at Barclays Center, and I
the
was
right
like,
move.
this is amazing.
Jay-Z.
Like,
That money
and-
went right into Jay-Z's
Right into Jay-Z's
exactly.
pocket.
Yeah. So, anyways, when Natalia won at SummerSlam, I was very excited for her. She's not one of my favorites, but I thought
She's so bad on the mic. I don't like
Oh,
her.
terrible on the mic. But I thought that she deserved some kind of, she's been at it for a long time.
Yeah.
I need more
It's
women's.
Bret Hart's niece, by the way, Micah.
Yeah. I need more women's Hell in a Cell matches. I love cage fights.
That one was great. So
Is
anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
is professional wrestling much like music, where if you see it live, you like it more?
I think it depends on what you go to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raw's too long live for me.
They're really long. I personally love commentary. I love when people are like, "Oh my god!" Like Trish Stratus is there.
You don't get commentary live.
You don't get commentary live, and that kind of wigs me out. But like music and wrestling are so like similar because you have the wrestlers or the bands, and then you have them with like their merchandise and their entrance song and like that same kind of thing. I feel like marketing wrestlers and having like storylines, it kind of relates to bands in a way. And so some of the things that I do management wise, I relate to wrestling.
Yeah,
right?
no, I think that's totally fair. I have another parallel to this that
Yeah,
might,
what's
that
up?
might also
Yeah,
sell this.
yeah.
So Tom Petty, R.I.P. My
R.I.P.,
hero.
I know.
I get to talk about Tom
Dude,
Petty
I
and wrestling.
love
in this
Tom
podcast.
Petty.
This
This
is
is
an
great.
all-timer.
Okay.
He talked about the difference between like recording a record
Okay.
and performing live.
Yeah.
And I think that you could sort of do this with wrestling too, because
Yeah.
when you go live, I remember when I went with a previous employer, we got tickets to go see SmackDown.
Yes.
And there was a part. There's my friend Sasha who went with us, and she was just not excited to go. But just being there and seeing someone just like dive off the top rope or like get thrown into a table,
The best.
It's
Music to
very
my
different
ears.
than seeing it on television. It's
Yeah.
a very different thing.
You're like there IRL.
Where when I watch on TV, I don't even pay attention to the matches as much as I pay attention to the commentary and the
Commentary.
stuff in between.
I took someone who had never watched wrestling before to Raw when Undertaker came back. Do you remember that? Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
This was like right before, was it Mania 31?
Yeah, this is like right before I got back into it, but I know what you're talking
Like
about.
right, okay, yeah, because 30 was when Lesnar beat Taker, right?
Yes.
I watched that the other
I
day.
think. Yeah.
I
This
was
is-
so
It's a
sad.
little blurry because I was just like on the shallow end of back into it.
Okay,
so.
no, that's okay. So I took like two of my friends and like Undertaker came back after this like long hiatus. And so I like was like peeing my pants, like flipping. I was like, oh my God, Undertaker's back.
Your
Paul
favorite
Heyman's
wrestler.
here, like my favorite wrestler.
Paul
And my
Heyman's
friends
great.
are like, who's that? And I was like, no, I can't take you to wrestling anymore.
You don't know who the Undertaker
Dude,
is?
I know,
Micah
dude.
knows who the Undertaker
Dude,
is.
yeah, if
I
you know who
I
it.
grew up a wrestling
Yeah,
fan.
yeah. Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I until SmackDown this last time it was there, and aside from SummerSlam, I go alone. I go solo. I'm a lone wolf.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I know.
That's
We'll
intense.
start going together. But like
Yeah, I'm in.
I love places that I can wear a title belt. Like I want to wear a title belt around my shoulder.
Wait, you have a belt?
Yes. I have the toy belt. I don't have the like legit
Yeah, you can buy like a $400 belt. at
$400
Wrestling Market. It's
replica
insane.
belt. I'm not
It's
that
insane.
cool. I want the women's one. If you gift idea, if you ever
$400 women's belt. No, that would be awesome.
Would
Yeah,
you ever?
yeah.
Would you manage a wrestler? Like if AJ Styles came to you, and was
I
like,
would so manage a
Peyton.
wrestler. Laszlo
Yeah.
and I had that conversation once. We were watching. So he recently has gotten into wrestling, which is hilarious.
good for him.
I'll get random texts and he'll be like, Roman Reigns is great, and I'm like, I hate Roman Reigns. Like to me, he put Undertaker into retirement.
I'm slowly getting in on Roman Reigns,
no,
but go ahead.
All right.
Give me-
Well, that's fine. I
We'll talk more
respect
about this off
I
air.
Why did
hate
you do that?
Roman
Why did
Reigns.
you put Undertaker in retirement? Did you hurt him?
No, it's just
He did it to the
Storyline-wise?
storyline,
Okay.
which
Does that have to
it's
do
not,
with
that's
Kane?
not his fault, but go ahead.
I know. Yeah. So he will text me and be like, "Did you watch Raw 25?" Like, it's just so funny. And he's like, "You and me should manage wrestlers." And I was like, "Okay, Laszlo, sure. Yeah, let's do it."
I'm just
So
glad
one
he's
of
in.
these days, that would be really cool. It's a whole other industry, but it would be sick, right?
Peyton, thank you so much for coming on. We really
Thanks
do
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
It was great.
It was
Wait,
a great
to
time.
have you.
Y2J.
Y2J, that's right. It's just too sweet.
Man, that was a fun conversation.
I really enjoyed that. Not just the wrestling either.
Yeah. If you want to follow Peyton on Twitter and Instagram, it's at Peyton Marek, very simply. And then you can find the Greeting Committee and Maybird's music anywhere you get music.
Yeah, you
So
can.
check out those bands too and look for them on tour. And if you're in Kansas City, Greeting Committee will be having that album release show. I'd like to be there. So
Yeah, thanks again to Peyton. And honestly, thank you so much, everyone, for listening this week and every week. We really appreciate it. If you want more of the Chalkboard Podcast, make sure you check us out on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And also visit our website, chalkboardpodcast.com. If you're a regular listener or just love what you heard, make sure to rate, share, and subscribe to this podcast wherever, however you listen. Our theme song is Killers, written and performed by Salar Ajabnik, and you can get his music and his latest release, The Black and White World, on Apple Music and Spotify. That's it for us this week. We'll see you next time.